I'm like a little obsessed with you. I'm not gonna lie. As a spiritual teacher, then you list things like Drag Race in your bio. And I was like, why aren't we texting every single day? You just radiate beauty and energy. Hey everybody, I'm Dougall Fraser. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, don't forget to click like and subscribe because it helps us tremendously. Everybody, I am so excited about our show today. I want to ask you a question. When you think of goddess energy, what do you think of? What comes to mind? For me, I think of compassion. I think of the planet. I think of the equal exchange of ideas. Our guest today is the embodiment of these things, and I cannot wait to have a conversation with her. So let's get started. Abiola, how are you?
Yay! Hi there, Dougall. Thank you so much for inviting me to your sacred circle.
I am so excited that you're here. This is our first time meeting. So first of all, it's
Yes.
nice to know you. Nice to
to meet
meet you. But I
you.
just have to say before we begin, so I'm a fellow Hay House author. Abiola is also a Hay House author. And I, of course, watch their Facebook page. And, we see other authors pop on here and there. And your video came on one day. And I just did like a double take for a second because the energy that you exude is so beautiful and so lovely. And then I started following your Facebook page, and then I started watching your videos, and I'm like a little obsessed with you. I'm not gonna lie. As a spiritual teacher, then you list things like Drag Race in your bio, and I was like, why aren't we texting every single day? You just radiate beauty and energy.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you made my day. Yeah, brown girl blushing over here in New York City. Thank you.
And I just want to say congratulations. So Abiola is the author of the new book, 3 books actually, but her new book, African Goddess Initiation, Sacred Rituals for Self-Love, Prosperity, and Joy. And then a new Oracle deck that's coming out, African Goddess Rising Oracle, which has been #1 before it is even officially published. Congratulations.
Thank
Super
you.
exciting.
Thank you. I feel like the goddesses and the ancestors are working it out. But you have to say, I have one slight correction.
Please.
In the way that you say the name of the Oracle deck, you have to say African Goddess Rising.
Yes. No, take 2. African Goddess Rising.
Yes.
So I'm fascinated by your history because one of the things that I was reading in your bio is that you're the descendant of teachers. There are energy workers in your family, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. So as you said, I'm the descendant of energy workers, healers, spiritual teachers, people who are clairvoyant and claircognizant and clairaudient. But the interesting thing is that most of them would not use that language. That's not language that they would necessarily use. I am the first person in my family born in the United States. My family is from Guyana in South America, and then further back from West Africa. And so it's very interesting, as my family is becoming more and more, I guess, American or more and more Western, if you will, we still remain very much, who we are. We still remain very much who we are. And one of the things that I was blessed to learn that I didn't know until during the past year, as I started to do research for this book, when I was given the divine assignment by my ancestors, I did academic research, I did spiritual research and channeling and downloading, and I went and interviewed and spoke with my family. I spoke with my family members who are on different continents. And one of the things that I was blessed to learn is that when my family was trafficked from West Africa to South America in the transatlantic slave trade, one line of my mom's lineage was brought specifically to be healers, specifically to be healers and doctors and caretakers. And so they retained their original last name for that reason. So it was interesting. I wasn't seeking any validation, but it just became even more clear to me that I am doing exactly what I was born to do and what I've been tasked to do.
What an incredible journey. It's interesting to me too in the world of intuition, because a lot of people, and I'm not sure how I feel about this because I believe everyone's inherently intuitive, but there is something to be said for when it is in your family tree, when it's passed down in that way. And I love you said something about the ancestors sort of calling you to write this book. And I was listening to another interview that you were doing, and you were like, I had another book in mind. This was not the direction that I want to go. So talk to us about what that's like when the ancestors are sweetly sort of ushering in this new energy.
Yes. So the interesting thing is it's sweet at first, but not when you ignore it.
Right.
So first it was perhaps, sweetly ushering in, but the more that I said no, the louder that voice became. And it's an interesting thing because my great grandmother, my mom's grandmother, who was known as Ma in Guyana, was a midwife and a woman's fertility healer, the equivalent of, again, they use different language, but she helped women who had problems, issues and challenges with their wombs and giving birth, etc. And she was known to be, clairaudient and clairsentient and claircognizant, and to be given a calling. And she was known as a healer, a very powerful healer. But this was not a calling that she wanted. And so one of the things that my mother has shared with us is that, Ma would hear very clearly the things that the ancestors were telling her, the divine was telling her, don't, for example, don't do these things, like, if for example, it was don't eat pork in her case, because it will block the channel. And this is different for everyone's lineage. I'm just talking about my family specifically. That was the guidance that she was given, but she didn't want to hear voices. She didn't want to hear guidance. She didn't want to hear the ancestors. She didn't want to hear any of that. And it was overwhelming for her. So she ate pork. She did the total opposite. If they said, for example, don't drink sour sap, which is a in Guyana, she would drink sour sap. She would do whatever guidance told her not to.
I resonate with Ma. That would totally be my way of doing it. Like, let's check it out first. I love that.
She would do the total opposite because it was not a calling that she wanted.
And interesting to me that she's a midwife, because one of the ways that you describe yourself in your work is that you're a self-worth midwife, which I think is like such a beautiful expression. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I feel very much like we do similar work. She helped women give birth to their babies, and I help us to give birth to ourselves. So many of us are in a rebirth process and a rebirth and an evolutionary process. The well-meaning folks who raised us, as I call them, they did the best that they could with what they do. But all of us who are on this planet right now, we are experiencing, we are in a time that in recorded history things are completely different. The internet, for example, just us being able to talk like this, all of the things that all of us as a generation are experiencing, to some degree we could not have been prepared for. We cannot be prepared for, the next age that is coming. So we're having to rebirth ourselves. And I feel like, a big part of my calling is to midwife that, to help us with that.
So that sort of brings me to the conversation of goddess energy, because, for me, for years, I would teach in workshops and say to people, let's call upon the feminine aspect of our being. Let's call upon the masculine aspect of our being whenever needed. That's pretty natural to me. I think as a gay man, society sort of gives me permission to do that. I didn't realize that not everybody sort of understands that. And I really feel like the planet right now is just begging for wisdom from goddess energy. The planet's on fire. The goddess, the actual earth is asking for us, like, listen to me here. And so when I've been watching your teaching and you've been teaching about goddess energy, things that I have not heard of before, which are so beautiful and so intense, it seems so appropriate right now and so, so needed.
Yes, we are being called to heal ourselves and the earth You know, this is right now what we are all being tasked to do. As we see, as you said, the world is on fire, literally and figuratively. You know, things are not working. It's like right now we're in the moment where there's the last grasp of, you know, all of the current structures, and they're holding on for dear life.
Yes, they
And
are.
dear life, they're gripping on like on the side of the mountain, you know, gripping on for dear life. And we absolutely are hungry, starving for the divine feminine. And also, and I was just talking about this earlier today, and also starving for the divine masculine as well, because what we have been witnessing, the patriarchy is not the divine masculine. It just is not. And so for me, you know, when I open, you know, my heart and open my soul, and, you know, whether you call it prayer or intention, you know, whatever works for you, it is to, you know, the divine feminine, the divine masculine. I say mother, father, God, because it is, you know, we need both, and we are hungry and starving, more hungry for the divine feminine because it has been so suppressed and pushed aside and hidden and all of those things, but we are hungry for both.
I agree. And it's interesting. There was an article recently, I think it was in the Washington Post, about people just popping and adults having temper tantrums. And
Yes.
we see these footages of people on airplanes and in restaurants just acting, I'm going to say this as lovingly as possible, but all kinds of crazy.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just think, like, where's the compassion? Where is the goddess energy? And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how one welcomes in goddess energy. You know, like, I know you have the new Oracle deck coming out, which is so beautiful and so lovely. I cannot wait to get mine in the mail. I've already ordered it.
Yay.
It's on its way.
Yay. I'll pull a card for you later on in the conversation.
Don't get me started, Abiola. I would love that.
Yay. Okay,
so
good.
Please talk to us a little bit about how one, if they haven't started their journey with working with goddess energy, how would one initiate or begin that?
So the best time to begin working with the divine feminine is right now, right at this moment. And the easiest way is to go within, and to start to listen to that still small voice, to listen to our intuition, to listen to your inner guidance. It is the most simple, but the most powerful tool that we have, and our connection to the divine. It's our connection to source energy. You know, it is source energy. It is the divine. And so if you don't know where to begin, begin within. And you can start with a mindfulness practice, you know, like a guided meditation, but there are also other mindfulness practices that work, you know, everyone is differently oriented and what works for them. So it may be journaling and free writing. It may be, you know, some people feel connected when they go for a run. You know, some people dancing, ecstatic dancing is absolutely, woo, a great way to connect with the divine feminine. Get those hip circles going.
Right. Get in your body.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And tune in to that womb space that I say that we all have. It's this space that is here, you know, in the sacral chakra region that we all have, no matter what your assignation was at birth. We all have that. And so tuning in to your divine guidance in your heart, you know, tuning into the guidance in your sacral chakra region. And the beautiful thing, as science catches up with spirituality, you know, we're knowing now that heart energy is way more powerful. There's a heart brain way more powerful than we thought that it was. And when we say, I feel it in my gut, I believe that you're feeling it in that womb space energy. That's what that is. That's what that is. So go within, start with a simple, you know, just if you don't know what to do, close your eyes and breathe.
My favorite technique. It's the easiest one to remember. Yeah.
Easiest one. Yes.
I also love, so in my world, I teach people about auras, I teach people about color and energy and how it sort of changes our vibration. And I love your use of color. Every time I hear your voice, I always see this radiant purple, which to me is the color of leadership. It's the color of destiny. It's someone that thinks outside of their backyard. It's a global perspective, just this beautiful energy. And then I was watching a video where I believe you were doing a goddess activation of Oshun. Am I saying that name
Yes,
correctly?
Oshun, yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that goddess and the color? Because I was just soaking every second up. It was so beautiful and lovely.
Yes, well, right before you and I started chatting today, and I was reading about your work with color, and that's when I made sure to put my book and amethyst crystal ball here, because I was like,
I love that.
who's gonna get it? So that is there specifically for you, because
thank you.
yes, you get it, and the world, the universe speaks to us in color. And Goddess Oshun, who is my mama goddess, she's the goddess of love and beauty. And there is a beautiful story that I will share with you about Goddess Oshun and the creation of the world. But I'm going to show you her here on the cover of the Oracle card deck. And one of the things, the guidance that I got from her after our beautiful artist, Destiny Powell, did the
gorgeous
cover.
work, Destiny. Absolutely gorgeous.
She is phenomenal. And after she, it was a beautiful process as she was channeling also and receiving guidance, and I told her that we needed to change the color of the water. I got a hit from Goddess Oshun, the Orisha Oshun, that we needed to change the water from blue to purple. So she is there in, this beautiful purple lake wrapped in her gold that she wears. And
So
it
beautiful.
is, yes, it's because it's the energy of the crown, right? It's the energy of, the energy of the divine, the energy of us connecting to who we really are.
And when you use color, because I noticed in a lot of your videos, they're bold, beautiful colors. Is that a conscious choice? Are you thinking about that? Or is that just sort of subconscious, how you sort of live your everyday?
It's both. It's both. So I am Caribbean and color, it is everything that we do is through an explosion of color. I say all the time, I jokingly say, I'm not comfortable unless I look like a Christmas tree. Like I need like things like hanging off of me. Like it's how we express ourselves. And everyone in my family is like that. My sister is a visual artist. We were talking about, a family member of ours who's very chic and very posh and very into the color gray, and her whole home is gray and everything. And we were both like, oh my goodness, like, like we would not survive that.
Really?
I crave color. Like I get hungry for color, and you get this. You
totally.
Yes, I crave color. And so, whether it is in, what I'm eating or in my environment, it's a part of how I interact with the world. And there's a beautiful quote from Alice Walker where she says in the book, The Color Purple, that if you walk past the color purple without acknowledging it, God gets angry.
Oh, I love that. And it's so funny. Every time you talk, I see purple. But in fairness to your family member with the gray, there is something interesting about earth tones. I always see gray as rooted in silver, which is connected to goddess energy. And gray happens to be one color that is the easiest for the eye to absorb. So a lot of people paint their house gray because I think it makes them feel nurtured and comfortable. But in the same way, in every video you do, I love your color, I love your backgrounds, the movement of energy. You talked about Oshun being the goddess of self-love.
Yeah.
And you talked a lot about, I read in your bio, sort of struggles with food stuff. What has your journey been with self-love? Because I can talk about food issues for the next 48 days. Like,
well, we are in the right conversation, my brother. Yes.
It is a thing for me.
Absolutely. I believe that, when we come into, this earth school, that we choose a divine assignment. And I happen to choose the divine assignment of, okay, I'm coming in to, teach self-love, to be a self-love midwife. Well, when you choose the divine assignment of self-love, you cannot know self-love without self-loathing. And so, the divine was like, okay, great. here's a great helping of, well, why don't we throw in some body dysmorphia? Let's throw in some food issues. Let's throw in all of those things. And when I was growing up, back in my day, there was not the recognition that we have now, the acceptance of different body types and all of those things. And at 12 years old, as my body started to develop, my body was out of alignment with, the dominant structure of what beautiful was. I forget her name, our beautiful supermodel Kate. I don't remember her name.
Moss?
Kate Moss. So the Kate Moss, heroin chic body type, as they called it at that time, is just, it's not my body, which is great. Kate Moss is stunning and beautiful. You're stunning and beautiful. I'm stunning and beautiful. We all are.
Agreed.
But I did not know that at the time. And I wreaked havoc on my body with overeating, disordered eating. And a big part of that, like anyone who takes part in any kind of disordered eating or any kind of addiction for that matter, is to numb, to avoid what you're feeling, to be a way to be out of your body, all of those things. And so for me, it has been a journey of getting back into my body, coming back home to my body. And one of my beautiful lessons of this past couple of years that we have all been through together is that during the pandemic, while I was writing this book and I temporarily left my Manhattan apartment and went and stayed with my parents to keep them safe, keep myself safe, all of those things, is that I rapidly put back on weight. I put back on so much weight, and a big part of it was not only the feeling of being unsafe in the pandemic, the feeling of, hey, look, the world's falling apart. If I want to eat brownies, I'm gonna eat brownies.
Have a brownie. Agreed. Yeah.
All of those things. And also I was signed as a Hay House author. And so it is my life.
Pandemic.
Right, during the pandemic. And so it was, and writing something that I didn't know that I wanted to write, that was scary to me, because people are going to say, who the heck do you think you are to be writing this? Who the heck do you think you are to be, talking about this is our history, and all of those things, things. And so it was very interesting, and I was actually sharing this with I will name drop. I was sharing this with Colette Baron Reed the other day.
Love her.
I was sharing this with her that the day after my book came out in July, I said, okay, now I don't need this weight anymore. And it just started to fall off because I didn't need to feel safe and protected anymore. I was back to, okay, I'm safe being me. I didn't need the barrier again that I had built up. And I was aware, because as a spiritual teacher, I was aware, just like I would be with one of my clients, that is what the weight was. And that's why I put it on. But this time around, it was just like, okay, I'm going to just do what my body wants to do. And I'm going to, if right now I need to have extra weight on to feel safe, it's fine.
You talk about that from such a beautiful, neutral space. Like, food issues have been a big deal for me. I'm a sexual abuse survivor. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'6", so everybody's calling me out. And how's the weather up there and all that stuff. And so part of it was grounding and sort of pulling away. And, even as a spiritual teacher, I identify as a student as well. And when the pandemic happened, first, I blamed my husband because he started baking and he does beautiful, beautiful work. And I don't want my food stuff to get in the way of his hobby. But I just felt myself feeling untethered and quite frankly, judging myself for it and thinking, I should be an example and I should be over this at this point. You talk about it with such freedom. This like awareness of, this is the struggle, this is what I'm doing for. Has that always been a part of who you are, or did you strengthen that muscle?
I think that I strengthened that muscle, and I think I'm still strengthening that muscle, because this is the conversation that we're having. But then, even, our, like we say in New York, don't get it twisted, don't get it twisted. Like, I can get in there with the best of them and, the self-sabotage thing comes on. But as we strengthen the muscle of self-love, as we strengthen the muscle of self-acceptance, all self-acceptance, it then becomes easier and easier and easier.
And doesn't this sort of circle us back to the energy of the goddess? You know,
Yeah.
I always believe that some people, you know, I certainly had issues with my mom. I loved her. She was wonderful, but we certainly had issues. But I always know that there was a period of time, whether it was in her body or in her heart or in her mind, where it was like the purest unconditional love.
Yes.
And so that moment of self-criticism, if anybody's watching, or that moment of food issues or whatever your addiction may be, whether it comes from the universe or the goddess or an elder in your family, we have felt that love before and we can call upon it again. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean, exactly what you mean. And I say to people who, you know, you and I it is fortunate and a privilege and a blessing to know that we did have that mother love. And I say to people who maybe didn't have that or don't know how to access that, you know, maybe there's a child in your life that you know, or even a pet, you know, just calling upon and feeling what that feels like, you know, to be loved, to know that you are loved and feel that safety, to connect with that. You know, it's umbilical cord to umbilical cord, you know, knowing that is a beautiful way to connect with goddess energy.
And it's been an interesting thing with the pandemic too, where friendships have sort of transformed or, you know, aren't as powerful as they were when things were open and just sort of, you know, normal, if you will. I don't know if it's ever going to be normal again, but this sort of soul group thing right now of, at this point in my life, I kind of only want to be connected to people that radiate. And that's why every time I saw your videos, I was like, I really want to connect with her. So I'm so glad you said yes today, because your energy is really, really beautiful. It's really lovely.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I'm so glad to be connected with you too. Like I said, when I came on to the call before we started rolling, I was like, you know, we're home. Like, great to see you.
I'm so glad you feel that way. That means the world to me. So tell people how they can find you. Let me go through the books again. So Abiola Abrams' recent book, African Goddess Initiation, Sacred Rituals for Self-Love, Prosperity, and Joy. Her new Oracle deck, African Goddess Rising Oracle, is coming out in October. I cannot wait to get it. Tell people about your website, social media handles. How can people find you?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you again for this sacred conversation. It was just as magical as I thought that it would be. Everyone can come play with me on social media everywhere at Abiola TV, where the TV stands for Transformation and Victory. And my site is womanifesting.com. So like manifesting.com, but womanifesting.com. And you've got to say it like that as well. And I have also a podcast called The Goddess Temple Podcast, and you can find those videos either on YouTube or iTunes, wherever you indulge in your podcast.